very low barrier to get into the Gronk Squad.
That's crazy.
We've committed to do the Daily Talk Show for 10 years.
Hi guys.
Hi guys.
Put it in the calendar.
That one in.
Just like to check the temperature in the room.
I told you my squeegee story.
It is outrageous. Come on, let's go.
It's the Daily Talk Show, episode 994.
Yeah, 94. I mean, today was meant to be our 1,000. Oh, tomorrow, 1,000th episode.
No,
But it's not.
No.
Because we can't do maths.
Mm-hmm.
2 + 2 is 5.
Have you had any other maths disasters in your life where you've miscalculated something?
Not that's cost me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was one the other day when I was driving back, which, okay, this is not maths, but it's relating to numbers.
Sure.
So I'll give you a fucking story.
Also, check out the Numbers Game podcast. Great podcast.
Great podcast. So the public holidays for Easter fell on Friday, Monday. I schedule our wages to go out on the Monday. That's a public holiday.
Yes.
So they were scheduled, they went out, but for some reason, banks, mate, it's fucking over the internet. Are you saying there's someone that the bank has to be open for the transaction to go through? I don't get it. I do not get it.
Did it not go through when it was meant to?
Well, it's sent from our bank through to yours and everyone else in the business on the Monday, which it was scheduled to do that.
And so it should be
automated. I automated that.
Yes.
Which it should go out.
Mm-hmm.
We had some money in a different account that we transferred over because we're like, oh, we'll need this money. Mm-hmm. So we transferred it over. That was on Saturday.
Yeah.
We're in a country town with $1.70 in our accessible bank account.
So you transferred. Okay. Yep.
So we had money coming from multiple places.
And it hadn't hit. What'd you do?
And it didn't hit. And it was Tuesday. And we're waiting. Oh, sorry. This was Tuesday when we were driving back on that long road trip. And we're waiting. And we're just thinking, well, because so the way you can get money is if we had money in a ING transfer to an ING. But we just didn't have the money. We just hadn't had the foresight. And I was like, oh, I get paid, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So we're waiting in this country town thinking, fuck, I hope this money hits because we'll be here for a while.
That is stressful.
It's so annoying.
And so what ended up happening?
Amy asked her sister, can you spot us $60 or $80? We put the petrol in. We drive an hour down the road. Cha-ching.
It didn't hit the account.
But we called ING. We're like, dude, what is going on? This is not normal. I'm thinking there's some fucking blockage in the system. Yeah. But then I started getting real dark on the banking system of like, if it's automated and it's online banking, why stick to open hours of a business when it's on the internet? Someone please send us through.
That's why you're only doing crypto now?
I only do crypto, 24/7 access.
You pay DOT?
I'll pay. I mean, that's all. I've got ADA, DOT. I'm going to buy some Thera, I think it's called. Anyway.
Is that different to Ethereum?
No, there's another one. Theta. Theta. THETA.
Are you comfortable if you lose it all?
Yeah, I'm okay with losing $450. That's so what I'm at.
Yeah.
I'll be at $1,000. I've got an investment happening next week. The door's open.
Okay.
Tell me about it. 3-day sale. Can't tell you much more because I don't want anyone else to get it. It's going to blow up.
Well, so the Numbers Game podcast, which I mentioned, we produce that. Yeah. And
you might have seen it on our Instagram stories.
Yes. Jace, Marty, Nick, they're talking all things investing and like buying homes and all that sort of thing. And they, in the next couple of weeks, they have a segment around, are my mates getting rich? This idea, or is my neighbor getting rich? This idea around everyone's buying shit at the moment. Things are happening, and it does sort of make you a little bit nervous in regards to if
people getting ahead of you.
No. If people are sort of over leveraged, or if they're sort of getting into that thing, which is like, oh, you know what? The house price is like, I just need to get in now. Like if I don't get in, I'm going to be fucked. Yeah. It feels like it's a risky position to be in.
I mean, people have been risking money in those. So there's risk levels. Yeah. And so buying a house, if you have a good deposit and a solid job and some money maybe to pay a few months of your mortgage, which is probably not the reality for most people. People are probably living like rent to rent or mortgage payment to mortgage payment, which most of the time is fine until you hit something like COVID. But I was thinking about, it's all just a trade-off. What are you willing to trade for that privilege or the option of purchasing something or living a certain life? Because it's like, thinking about a lot of people our age, a lot of people owned homes. Houses were cheaper. The wages weren't as high as they are now, but it seemed doable for people to purchase a home for 150K, 250K when two parents are on 40 grand. That's 80 grand a year.
Yeah.
A couple of years of their salary would pay off the whole entire house. Whereas now it's our salary times by 20. It's crazy. Like,
their interest rates were way higher compared to what we're experiencing
but
now.
What also happened was, as you held the asset, it fucking skyrocketed. So there's all these people that bought this home and they might be still paying the mortgage. The house is worth 4 or 5 times the cost of what they purchased it for. But then I was thinking about the generations of shit parents.
What does that mean? Generations
of parents that didn't communicate with their children, that worked a lot. I feel like, think about the woke generation, or us knowing now how to talk to kids or what you should be doing as a parent.
Are you trying to say, Bodie, we're not going to have a house, but I'm going to give you a lot of cuddles? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, that's an option. I love cuddles.
Who needs a big
like a house
bedroom when dad's here? I mean, there is something in that. Like, there is definitely.
Think about, for us to get a house, to work our dick off,
yes,
and do long hours, potentially, sacrifice of time. Like, I feel it after spending a weekend away with my family and being with Bodie, and I'm so impressed with the little man he's becoming. I'm just like, fuck, I don't want to lose that. Like, I love seeing him.
What is he doing?
He's just a little guy. It makes me emotional, but just seeing him as a little man and then thinking about the time, like, I have to spend away from him. It seems fucking ridiculous to do it. But then it's like, what's the other fucking option? If you had all the money, had all the monies in the world, but if you had a whole bunch of money right now, I would choose to spend time with him and build up his character and do everything with him. But like, I think that's a dream for most, because then it's like, working also teaches him resilience and teaches him, it's a role model. I think about my dad, who's loving and had a father that probably didn't communicate like my dad does with me. And I'm like, fuck, that's a jump in generation of someone who is doing what they probably didn't have. My grandfather went to the war. You know, he'd had a lot of that baggage. Proper, wearing trousers every day. Anyone who wears trousers isn't telling you they love you. There's too much time spent on putting the trousers on or making sure they're ironed. No, I'm joking, but it definitely a different upbringing. But I see how hard my dad worked. But even when the time was, he was home in the afternoon because he left at 5:30, how connected he was with me in the time that he was home. And so it's annoying because you go, fuck, I just want all that time.
What's the difference between being a loving parent and being a helicopter parent?
How many toys you get? No, a loving parent, helicopter parent.
I guess because the helicopter parent's the idea of sort of
don't climb up that because you might fall,
or even just like being. Yeah, I guess there's that element. But I'm even thinking there is something in giving a child space to grow and to your point around going to work. I mean, like, there's a bunch of development that happens when he's out interacting in the real world without you. So
then maybe helicopter, like a molly coddled. Is that the right term of, like, you're doing everything for them. So that, it's a human needs to fail. A human needs to learn through failing or through hurt. But then also, so the part of the equation you can control is how much love you give to your kid, which is a conscious decision, and how present are you when you are with them. But it's tough. Like, you think about the time, two parents working, having a kid, it's the equation isn't nice when you work it out in terms of how many hours you actually spend with them.
Is this a new observation? Like, so say you think about before Bodhi was born and you thought what it means to be an adult, what it means to be a dad. What's changed for you, do you think?
You just don't know what you don't know. So before having the kid, you think about yourself and your partner or your family, like the people that you do, your friends. But then you see the impacts that, think about the people in the world and the impact of their parents on them. You are, the sum of the 5 people you surround yourself with, and your parents are close for the first, many formative years of a human's existence. And so that's when I think I just see Bodhi in the kind of kid he is, and how brave he is, and how kind and loving he is, all these things. And you're just like, fuck, this is such formative years for them. I think it's just a dilemma that a lot of parents face, and I think it can come out as guilt because you can't spend as much time, or you're trying to do things. I mean, it's a good thing to just question what it all means.
Have you thought about when Bodhi goes to school, are you going to be the parent that picks him up at 3:30 or whatever? Is he like what? Like, because think about
it's all hard. Like, this is things I don't have an answer for just yet because it's still a little while off, and it's like you got to.
You almost have to plan that shit though too, right? Because otherwise,
it's a little bit closer to see the scene. Like you can make decisions quite quickly, months out or before. It's like I'm just saw a woman down the street today, and she her 2 little kids, very cute ones, reminds me a lot of Bodhi. He's older, he's in prep or grade 1 or something, and she has a daughter as well, and they're at the coffee shop, and I was like, oh, school holidays. She's like, yeah, and then I was like, so what are you working? What's going on? And she's like, yeah, I works from home, or she's a lecturer or something. It's like a real struggle. She couldn't get the kids into after school care, like a holiday program.
Yeah.
And so she has to have the kids. And so it's hard because if you don't probably design your life, which I'm speaking from someone who hasn't probably designed their life in the way that would support that. Like my parents, which I don't think they probably designed their life. Like I think it's so modern to be like optimize, design your life. But my dad had a business, and mum had her own business that she was flexible with, and so she could look after the kids. And my dad worked. Yeah, and so that worked. And we lived near the school. There was many things that were probably in our favour. But I'm like, did I go to after school care? I can't even really remember. Some of it I did.
I never did. I think that when I was really young, so from sort of prep to grade 6, so all of primary school, I think mum was focused on us, and then went back into dental nursing sort of year 7, which I think is sort of the perfect thing, because like once you get old enough that you can walk home from school, you can unlock, you don't need to be driven around and things like that.
I mean, there's new lives. So like Amy's mum comes away with us. I mean, comes away with us. She paid for the house. We went away with her. And she's mid-50s, late 50s, but she, doesn't have kids living with her. So she had 3 kids of her own, and her new partner has, her husband has his own kids, but they've got a new life.
Yeah.
And so it's weird because you go, once the kids leave the nest, there is a new life. Think about all the grey nomads that are like in a new adventure of their life. And so if you make it through, it's like there are new versions along the way. And
so, because I think that I'm a visualizer. I'm always visualizing what I want to be happening in the future. Like that idea of like, a few months out, I'll see how it is. I feel like it's so hard to execute on what you want based on that idea. So there's an element of fear, which is you don't know where things will be or what it is. But if you don't have this is actually what I want, this is how long, this is, Bodhi's going to school in X amount of months or years or whatever it is. How long is it now? Is it a year and a half?
There's another whole year before he starts at school.
Yeah. but saying, okay, like this is in the ideal scenario, this is what I want to do, because it is hard to, like, I think most people, ourselves included, you are your previous decisions. So the things that you did, the decisions that you made 1, 2, 3 years ago is the reason why you're doing what you're doing.
But he's 4.
Yeah. No, but as you, and so if you think about, like, you know, business wise, the decision of, like, staying in the business and all that sort of thing. So based on that, there is a lot to be said with, like, so for me, like, I think about the golf stuff.
I was like, please don't bring golf into it.
No, but I think
got to try and be relatable to one of your loves.
So
golf is strong love. Don't you dare tear up over golf. Oh, fucking.
It's beautiful. And
your swing is beautiful.
Yeah, what the swings become. No, but so that's obviously that's me saying, okay, like, I want to change my lifestyle. I want to be more active. I want to be more social. I want to be doing these sorts of things. And so that was like taking a step in that direction. Is this unrelatable?
It's classic.
It's someone without a kid talking.
That's the funniness of it. It's like,
but don't you
golf
think,
analogy.
But don't you think, like, I think like, it's always that's what parents will do, right? Like,
one of the most time-rich things that someone, like, if someone has time on their hands, if they're rich, they've got a lot of time. Golf is the game for them.
Yeah, but I think, like, it's funny because but I also think from an observation when I was a kid, because when you're a kid, like, everyone has some version of family dynamic, or everyone's grown up in some form of situation, whatever that is, with parents, whatever. And I think the interesting thing is, if you, like, for most kids, I don't know if you can relate to this, but I remember my parents sort of eye rolling a bit at the friends who don't have kids or whatever, that don't get it, or, you know, like, the people that are around that's just like, oh, they fucking, you know, like, oh, of course they can do that because they don't have to worry about X, Y, and Z.
No, I never heard that. I think it's because I was probably hanging around kids and their parents, so they are people that.
I feel like it's more the sort of the family, dad's siblings or mum's siblings or whatever it is, where it's like, oh, you know, you've got the fun auntie or whatever it is that's got a bit of a different lifestyle,
but a drinking problem.
Yeah, exactly. But
looks fun from the outside, very fucking sore head.
But do you think, like, I guess the thing with,
no, you're spot on with I think there is many things that are general advice that connect to parenting, which is, how do you want that to look? And the year, like, I think the thing of having a kid in daycare where you've got so you form a routine where you know that you can execute on the routine for many years. And so that's like a learning curve until you are in it. And then there's a new routine. Now that I know a daycare routine, or having the ability to, you know, send a kid off in the morning, get them in the afternoon, like much longer hours, you're just riding that out. But then there will be a new one that will be a challenge and different. But let's think about, like, a parent who, a couple that has one person working. You see how it makes a lot of sense. You see how the friction, you see how it is a full-time job, where it's, it's traditionally the male, but there's a lot of men now still being stay-at-home parents because, you know, their partner can make a lot more money than they can, and they see the benefit of it. So you do see how all those things make a lot more sense, and why there is a parent at home, or from a cost-cutting perspective, running the numbers on it. I mean, school's much cheaper.
Well, don't you think, like, so my thought is around, like, parenting, when people talk about it, there's a lot of people who talk about the out of control nature of, like I've got kid, like, it's not, there's a version of it which is, I can't, like, control my life because I've got these things external to me, which I understand. It's always a hard topic of conversation because I don't have kids. I don't have that experience.
Probably a way to articulate it, and I see where the out of control thing can be. I think it comes from two people working, and then both having two people that have are wanting to do, you know, or exceed in their career or do something beyond what their life is currently, and a child on top of that, because there is it would make sense to you if I said there's a couple, one person works and is excelling in their career, the other person is up for looking after the kid, and there's a teamwork there. It's like when one's snowed under, this person can really take the brunt of the child rearing. It's like, and you see how the teamwork can, but it's hard when society that like living is expensive, different parts of the world, and two parents needing to work, but then also so they're swimming in that together and both also wanting to do other things. I want to fucking go and exercise, or I want to go this class, or I want to go out with my friends. And so you got two people that are butting heads in that respect. And so you see how it's like a kid on top of that with, you've got like a no schedule or structure, and support on the back end. So you can structure it. I mean, people have survived this shit, but it is challenging.
What about, like, I guess part of it is just wanting to have everything.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
wanting to have, I think that potentially that's where mental health issues are at the moment. Is because, like, we're told that we can do anything, we can be anything, we can have our cake and eat it too. You can have the awesome house, you can go on the holidays, you can do all of this, and that's where I guess minimalism. Like, if you actually just draw back expectations around those elements of like, oh no, I can't, like, it doesn't make sense for me to do X, Y, and Z. I just feel like there's...
Well, think about this. So if Amy stops working and we live off one salary, if you were in the mindset of a 2-salary existence and the spending that comes with the spending ability that comes with having 2 incomes, that's a hard existence. But you're saying the pulling back of, like, you can do a lot with one salary, but you just can't be as, out there with your money or spending.
But you can be time rich.
Well, exactly. So, that's where there is huge reward in accepting a way of existing and then growing that version.
So it might mean, for some people it's like, I want to be within X amount of kilometers from the city or this or that. But maybe the thing is that, like, to make it work, it is that completely different existence.
Well, I mean, this is, and the comparison that creeps in of like, oh, I want that fucking boat because Kevin and his wife had that, the jet ski. But this is the pain, because then you're feeling like you're without time, you're without money. But then flipping the which is minimalism is actually being okay with having less or doing less, or.
But it feels like it needs to be a conversation beforehand. Because it's very hard to, if you're not that type, if you don't see yourself being a full-time parent doing all of that, it is a hard, like, then it means that someone is making a sacrifice of sorts.
Yeah, because it does always sway. It's the strategy without setting a strategy. Yeah. One will happen. And so that's a lot of people that it's just life happens. And so I feel how hard it is to make the decision if someone was deciding to stop working and actually being a full-time parent. That's a tough decision. If you've been you've been programmed to think life's about a career. Like, think about that.
But so what does that mean? So using that example, say if Amy wasn't working and was, being a full-time parent, which is a job in itself, the hardest job.
It's fucking hard. Most dudes couldn't do it.
Yeah. And so if you using that example, I'm just trying to think of I just was thinking about the dudes thing. I think I don't think we can say men are this, women are this. Like, I just don't think that's a thing. Do you think
no, I think there's many.
Early stages, like a baby. Obviously, there's breastfeeding and all that sort of thing. But if you're talking primary school years, it becomes a bit more of a even playing field in regards to, which parent could be doing it.
Yeah, of course. Later in the life, there's a lot that I couldn't do that would be just tough. And I mean, you could you can bring up a child from day one as a man, bottle feeding and stuff. I mean, that is a reality. But I think there is in general, a generalization. There is a difference. There is a slight difference. But I mean, it's just fucking getting into the weeds. But I think there are a lot more men, which it's not like fucking hooray for men that they're becoming fathers or they're choosing to be the stay-at-home
So
person.
how do you make the decision? So for instance, using that example, if Amy's like, oh, I actually want to work and you want to work, like how do you work it out?
Yeah, it's communication. I don't know.
What is it for you? Like if you thought about being a full-time parent, what would that look like?
Yeah, I think it'd be too challenging for my head of like wanting to do, like driven in a bunch of ways. I haven't started businesses for no reason. I think it's like done a bunch of them over the years, and it needs a drive. It needs some kind of drive to it.
But that's like the individual perspective of this is what I need or whatever it is. But say Amy's
but that's
got
what you're up against. That's what you're up against.
Yeah. But you can't, like, I think that I think that that's where we are in 2021, where it's not like I think that when we grew up, it was more gendered, where it was like, oh, you know what, like mother's group. That was the common thing, right? Where it's like if you look at things like careers, if you look at all of these things that are tied into where women are in society, there's a bunch of it that is relating to this very issue, right? Because if you say, okay, you're going to take a year off, 2 years off, whatever it is, there's a big chunk of time that you're not doing the thing that you were planning on doing from a career perspective. And so then
it's huge. I mean, but the mother's group thing is usually women very early stages of having the child, coming together, support network. That's what mother's groups are, local based. But it is at the time where you're heavily breastfeeding. It's like you're in the fucking fog of it all from just having a child. But then, yeah, I don't know where it's going.
Well, so I guess that thinking that you have around, I'm
the career. I was just going to say you can get a kid into daycare at a few months. It's crazy. Like you can get back to work.
And so this is the whole point that we're trying to work out, right? Which is like, what is the point of being a parent? And so this is my my personal view on it. For me, is like unless I can, my fear would be being a distracted parent, being a parent.
There's a lot of them. There's a lot. Yeah. The world is geared to distract parents or humans. And think about the thing in your pocket.
Yeah, and so it's not about being perfect, but I think that I internally don't feel that sort of that's my focus, or that's something that I necessarily want to go down. And so like I've worked that out. But I guess from a societal perspective, where there is that sort of, you've got the biological clock, you have all of these things which are sort of putting pressure on people to have kids. But if you can't, as a team, as a couple, trying to work out like what that version is, that's like hard, right? Because it means it means that someone is getting the sore end of the deal, which also means that they're not necessarily going to be the best parent, because they're not. I think that like part of potentially parenting is that like the parent's fulfilled as well, and like that's part of the whole experience.
I don't think it's never as clear as that. It's think about anything in life, the struggles actually help you figure shit out, and so many people, they would have been confused about their existence, and the children have helped them sort of get some pain into or some pressure under them to work shit out, to take a different path, or to figure it out. And so that's what I like. There is a lot of learning and adapting as you go as a parent. Did
you have a conversation before you had Bodhi around this is the parents that we want to be, this is what we want to do?
No, nah. Which, I mean, fuck, it's a I think most of it probably, if it's not said in that respect, is inside of you as a result of your upbringing.
Yeah.
So for me, it's the kind of parents the kind of people my parents were to me, and so wanting to take that on.
If you got two individuals with two different stories based on their upbringing.
I think about all the so it's so easy to articulate for it to seem like there was some confusion, but there's probably a version of partners being aligned. Amy and I are aligned. Having a child is that synergy. We are loving. We are on the same page on many, many things. There is definitely worth. It's like saying I have never written my goals down, or they're just in my head, or I don't really think about. There's a lot of people that find success writing them down, not writing them down, keeping them in their head, never speaking about. There's a million ways to achieve things, and so parenting is a version of that too.
Do you think that in general, in the idea of parenting, there is a vibe that don't overthink it, don't over communicate it, never a right time, just do it, you'll figure it out. Like that's the vibe that I get.
There's nothing about. I don't think there's a few things in there. Don't communicate it probably isn't necessary.
Not don't communicate
but
it, but
there is a lot of figuring out. There's a lot of intellectualizing you're doing right now about something you have no idea about. Not saying that's a negative, but
I do. So my experience is choosing not to. Right, in a society where it's like everyone expects you to have a kid. There's a lot of, and this is, I guess, what parents are probably listening, screaming at the speaker. It is I understand that this is a triggering topic, which is you don't know what it's like, blah, blah, blah. But there's the other side of it, which is not having a kid is a big choice. And it's not, I think that the easy way to go is it's a choice of selfishness, or if it's, it's a choice of, which I can see the connection when you see like the golf thing, right? Which is like, it's someone who's wanting a life of leisure versus, wanting to do something fulfilling or whatever, which I don't take on. Like that's not how I feel about it. But from the perspective of, like surely, so say if you're looking at the friction point now, there's probably a planning or conversation around, like let's look at what, say 18 years, 20 years, it's a long time, but like, what does that even remotely look like? And if you visualize that and you can both as a couple say, okay, well, that's sort of where we want to go. Because the conversations are going to happen anyway, right? Like you're going to have to work it out.
I mean, I have all these conversations. It's just, most people probably aren't having them as a sit down session every Thursday, which is a benefit to doing that every Thursday, but not Wednesday. Don't do Wednesday.
But even I just think about like I wonder how many, I feel like you're the common version, right? I think if you listen to parents, it's like, oh yeah, like we had no idea, like we're just, sort of swimming and, just trying to figure it out. And
you do figure it out. I think that's how so many of us are here.
Yeah, I think I wonder what for like new parents, if you look at like, because part of it is like cognitive dissonance, which is like you just keep like once you've done something, it makes complete sense because you don't want to change where you are, and because you are where you are, it's very hard to look back and say, oh, I actually would do X, Y, and Z differently. Like I think when you speak to most parents, there's only very few that I've spoken to where it's like, oh no, don't do it, like fucking don't do it type of thing. Everyone's on board at that stage. But it doesn't mean that there's not awesome lessons that people who are just on their journey of becoming parents that they would get benefit from. Was there anything that you heard, was there anything that you experienced that you wish you had known before the experience?
No, because I don't think it would have connected. I legit don't think anyone saying anything would have had a penny drop moment for me until you're fucking balls deep in it. And then
impregnating.
No, but like it's like me pointing out the second birth or, the things we know going into the birthing class. is like, I just, even if I did that class, I still don't think I would have experienced it the way I am now, just based on never having the knowledge, like the actual lived experience. And
Isn't it so weird though when you think about like, so if you're going to, if you were taking on something that was going to cost you 30 grand a year or 50 grand a year or whatever it is, what lifetime cost of a child's $1 million or whatever this day and age. Think about like the thought that goes into like the pragmatic, practical.
I actually don't think that we would have a human existence if we looked at it like that, because you wouldn't want to have kids like you don't want to, because fucking dude, the maths doesn't add up. But
there's something more than that.
There's heaps more than that.
Which I get.
The human population got down to something as low as 7,000 or something crazy like that on this earth.
Yeah, I don't know about the numbers.
But it's fucking mind blowing that we got down that low and now we're skyrocketing.
So you're worried that we're gonna need to have more kids?
Not at all. There's a lot. There'll be fucking 10 billion.
What do you think when you have a kid? For you personally, what's the if someone said, why do you want to have a kid? Back then, what would you have said?
I probably hadn't thought about it. I hadn't thought about it, but I'd never thought I don't want to have kids. And so, yeah,
it's interesting.
It's beautiful. It's amazing. It's a fucking miracle. Like, I think,
was that what you were thinking before having kids?
Never. No. It's untapped. It's tapped into, not untapped. It's tapped into
a different part of your existence.
Part of me that I hadn't felt before. It's like, heard a guy talking about how he doesn't look at anybody in the eyes, and a bit of an oddball. Just hates making eye contact. Doesn't like it.
But he's had a pro shop.
He's had it. Yeah, was it the guy at the pro shop? But since having a kid, he just can't stop looking into this kid's eyes.
Oh, really?
Just looking, like, and I get that. It's like weird because I never think how weird. Like, I love getting close, nose on nose.
It's so personal. Do you know what it reminds? Do you know what it reminds me of? Religion.
What does?
Being a parent. So, for instance, like, think about like a religion. If you're a religious guy and I start saying like what it like, and tried to put my thinking behind it, which is spreadsheets and the practical stuff, or projecting my version of what I think I want from life or whatever. When you have those conversations with people who are religious, it doesn't connect, right?
Well, it's like saying, was there actually a guy that turned water into wine? Did the seas really get separated by an individual? Because if you, in your current form, think that is able to happen, have you ever seen it in your lifetime? It's like, I get it. You look into it. And so there's definitely like, if you think about religion, I've had a bunch of conversations with mates that are religious talking about this stuff. It's like, it's such a personal journey that it's like, oh, like this is me. Like once it becomes so much of it is identity. And I think the interesting thing is, I think it makes you question identity. So it's like a part of your identity, but thinking about what it all means and spending all the time you do at your job. So if you're a guy who's wrapped up in identity of, I'm the guy that does X at my business or at my job, but then it questions that and makes you look at why do you think that? Is that really who you are, or is that really bringing fulfillment? So, but that's like anything. You pick up a golf club and you're like, holy shit. What have I been? Why? Like, this ticks all the boxes. It's walking.
Yeah,
it's socializing, mate.
Being out in nature.
Golf clubs. There's only four allowed on the course at one time.
Yeah, it's perfect.
It's great. Little amount of people, but you just start seeing all the. And so
you see the signs.
That's how everyone adapts to anything.
But the interesting thing on the identity stuff is, I feel like if you were having a kid in the 80s or the 90s, there was less options to parents. So it was just like you just fucking sucked it up and did what you had to do.
Which is why I'm thinking about the different generation of
But you think about now, but the problem is now it's like you have options. So even friends of mine that have kids where it's like, oh, you know what? Like, I want to go and to study, or I want to do this, or I want to completely change my career. How where does that fit in with everything that's happening, right? It's people like, mates that have multiple houses and they're talking about this. It's like, it's going to mean, taking step backs, stepping side, like completely shifting their life.
You can also have a kid and totally not be into parenting, not be into it. It's like, but you don't understand really why. Like it's just inside of you is not, it's like women that say, I'm not maternal. They don't have a maternal bone in their body. That's a legit thing. Like they just don't have the feeling for it. And so, yeah, it's all fascinating. Humans.
Yeah.
Humans are fascinating.
And so if you go back to the earlier conversation around seeing Bodhi, spending time with Bodhi, where do you sit? Where do you land with all of this stuff that we've just spoken about around identity and time and money and all of that? And then Bodhi, the child that wants your attention.
Yeah, it's an ongoing thing that I'm thinking about. Like
because that job thing, like so, using the example of your full-time, Amy's full-time looking after Bodhi, that compared to what you were talking about of missing, like seeing that you need to spend time with Bodhi, you see how there's like a disconnect between what you're sort of describing is almost what we describe as like older generation, which is the dad might not be as present. They're always at work. You see them, you know.
But there is a trade-off. Think about, I guess it's really being clear on what it is that you're wanting, which it's a hard decision for a lot of people. So if it's money, like, or if you're chasing some dream, that means you're not present with your child a lot because you're not there. It's like, but the result at the end is X. And so that's where it's, I mean, there's probably people that are quite happy not being around their kid because they're chasing something but they've decided on that. So they've got someone at home working.
But there's a bunch of rich families with kids that are fucked up because,
of course, because they're probably,
the parent thought that everything that they needed was, a credit card and, whereas the reality is that
just want to fucking hug.
Exactly. But so isn't that like there's
but that's someone out of alignment, but or that has probably missed the cues or but
isn't
most kids just want to be loved. There's
so
not many that don't.
So if that's the case, then it becomes this weird thing where it's like if all they want is to be loved, then the idea of work and stuff, like you almost want to be like, how do you do the minimum amount of work that sustains a thing? But the problem is that there's this fear that I need to be buying, I can't be renting, I need to like buy a house so we can create that security. It
is a conundrum of life. It is the if you had the answer, you could fucking make a lot of money from an ebook and make money while you're playing golf.
Yeah.
That's the dream. Not making money playing golf.
Whilst playing golf, yeah.
Just
hashtag passive income.
Yeah.
Passive parent income.
Yeah, yeah.
Any other thoughts?
So let's workshop a few golf themed ebook titles about, let's just say you made $10 million while on the golf course.
Yeah.
What's
Swingers.
How to make it big and
Swingers. Having your cake and eating it too on the golf course.
Yeah.
You like that?
The $10 million man.
Yeah. How's that related to golf? It's not,
just because it needs to swingers is the golf, but then it's like has to the guy that made it rich while playing golf.
I mean, you would if you were writing a golf book, it would be balls deep in parenting.
Hole in one every time.
We can do one more. Okay, I've got nothing. Hang on.
You're just thinking about playing golf.
Green putting.
Oh, yeah. The
putting for parenting.
Yeah. Putting for putting and parenting.
Putting and parenting. Yeah, the secret life of golf while being a great parent. Great. All right, it's a daily talk show. I hope you have a great day.
If you're a parent and have experienced maybe some of these thoughts, or if you're a person who doesn't want kids and has had some thoughts, throw us some questions. Because I think that's the thing. Questions can circulate. You might not have the answers. Like, how do I work and chase my career but also be a great parent? Like, that's a question that's fucking hard to answer, but we'll give it a crack.
Right. Hi at thedailytalkshow.com. Have a good one, guys.
See you guys.